Hey, what's up everybody, Malakith here. So, many of you will know I went to the Eurogamer Expo on Sunday and met up with Chadman amongst various other people. And so this is going to be a short video sort of covering what I saw while I was there, my opinions on some of the games and things I came across. I'm not going to focus on all of them, just a few key specific ones, and just my thoughts and feelings on the Eurogamer Expo in general. So, let's begin. So the convention itself took part in Earls Court 1 in London and was fairly dimly lit, which didn't go particularly well with my camera, unfortunately, so I apologise for some of the image quality during this. You had the usual big displays from Sony, Microsoft and Nintendo, all obviously pushing their new consoles. The Xbox One, the PS4, both prominently on display and, available for all to see. A lot of the games were running on them using dev kits, so they weren't exactly representative of what you'll see finally, so do bear that in mind if you are looking at some of the footage. In terms of the big name games, you had all the ones you'd expect to see there. Titanfall was there. Unfortunately, they wouldn't let me record too much of them, and they had an absolutely enormous queue. It was by far the largest at the convention, with the exception of maybe Call of Duty. Assassin's Creed Black Flag had a raft of playable stations, but the Assassin gameplay itself didn't seem too different to what you'd usually expect. The naval looked a little tweaked compared to the previous iteration, but that was kind of to be expected. Battlefield 4 had an enormous stand where they had split it into two halves, a sort of a red and a blue team, and you had rows of stations lined up. Sometimes apparently they were playing against each other, other times one was set on Conquest and the other was set on Deathmatch, just to show the different game modes. The new Wolfenstein was on display, and we have a great clip here of someone doing the entirely sensible thing of shooting away the brakes of the lift that he's currently standing on. Always a good choice in life, and it is nice to see the game lets you do stupid stuff like that though. Because, many would sort of railroad it so it wasn't even, an option for you to screw yourself over. Rise Son of Rome had an enormous queue. Fable Anniversary, that seemed popular. Dead Rising, I did queue up to go see that, and the person I was with played it whilst I watched. I was not overly impressed at all. They did not do a good job of selling that game to the people trying it. They basically just put you in a sandbox with all of the cheats on, as many zombies thrown in as possible, and absolutely no real sort of indication of how the game would play, other than I can mash button and slaughter hundreds of zombies, which is nothing new to the franchise. So they did a bad job of trying to sell their game there, I think. It's an Xbox One exclusive as well, so it didn't really interest me at all. One of the things that really did impress me, however, was the Nvidia Shield, which is a sort of a little portable thing that would normally let you play Android games in like a portable format, but you can also connect to your PC if it's wirelessly on the same network and play games sort of remotely. I mean, I know if you're in your own house, why would you want to do that? It's a bit of a weird concept, so I can never justify buying one myself, but it handled very well. You can see here me playing the new XCOM game, and it's very much just like having an Xbox controller. I mean, I wasn't really looking at the small screen because I was playing it on the larger screen in front of me, because it was kind of like having a computer there. But I guess the idea is you'd sit in the living room and play it there whilst someone else is using the computer or something. I don't know. It's a very strange concept, but very well executed from a technology standpoint. So I'm just going to take a step back for a moment and let me have a rant about a couple of things. So the first is Kinect. I mean, from a technology standpoint and like as an electrical engineer, I love what the Kinect is capable of, and I think it's great. But, I mean, just watching this video, it makes you look stupid. Anyone walking in the street looking in, this is what they'd see. They wouldn't see what was on the screen. Just watch. I'm going to leave that running in the background while I have a rant at something else. So the other big thing that really bugged me about the Eurogamer thing was all of the big companies had a load of guys there saying, I'm demonstrating this game. They were basically just guys off the street who had a vague idea how the game worked and how to reset a console if it broke. They knew nothing about the game if you actually went and spoke to them. They weren't actually sort of employed by the company other than to be a demonstrator. They're not a developer. They've not worked on it before. I think most of the cases this was the first time they had seen it. It was terrible. I mean, it's like trying to ask technical questions, especially about YouTube and whether the company policy and whether they'll let you upload. They didn't have a clue. It was just trained monkeys. The other hand, however, you get the indie guys. I'll cover them in a lot more detail later. You had the full development team there, all dressed up in character. I went and spoke to the Sir You Are Being Hunted team. They're all there in tweed and hats and talking about coding methodologies they used on their game. The difference between that and the big companies who just don't have to try and don't really care was, really sort of clear to me. And it's a shame because I found I engaged with the indie sort of stalls considerably better than I did the other ones, and came out wanting to play their games far more than the big name titles. So back to the more interesting stuff, we have piano-powered Doom. Yes, certain keys correspond to certain actions in the game, and you end up playing a really bad attempt at some music in the process. But still very funny to see, and an awesome idea. So the list of independent and sort of indie developers there was huge. Prison Architect, Montague's Mount, Frozen End Zone, Democracy 3, Droid Assault, Eodor, Brasters of the Broken World. One that I had an especially good chat with was Redshirt, which is a sort of parody of Star Trek / Facebook mixed together with a ridiculous amount of sort of sci-fi tongue-in-cheek humour, which you may be seeing more of in the future, hopefully. Also, there was a very interesting one for everyone who is sort of interested in Mount & Blade games, which I guess is the majority of my channel, as quite a lot of my stuff includes that. There's a game called Caribbean, which is based on the Mount & Blade engine to an extent, and we should have some footage running in the background of Chadman playing it. So the land battles are, as you'd expect from a standard Mount & Blade game, but aside that, you've got a world map very much like the Caribbean, sort of Sid Meier's pirate style, sailing around. You've got some naval battles. Chad seemed to have great fun with it. I actually wandered off to go talk to some developers whilst he carried on playing. You get multiple decks of the ship, and you can fire them all individually, and he seemed very impressed with it, so that's definitely something to look out for. I'm not sure when it's due to release, but I'm sure I will look into it a little more, and you may see it on the channel at some point in the future. The other indie game me and Chad got quite heavily involved in was one called Foul Play. You seem to be kind of an actor, I guess, and his little sidekick on a stage in front of an audience, and you're trying to impress them by sort of doing acrobatic fight scenes with combos, and just trying to sort of keep the audience happy. And once you've sort of wiped out the guys on the screen, it'll scroll towards the side, and just before they get out of shot, the guys that you've sort of defeated will crawl away, and you've got like the janitor running around in the background fixing problems with the stage props. It all looks very, very good. I think it's something that you will see me and Chad playing, a reasonable amount when it comes out, assuming it comes to PC. I believe it is, but from the logos that are on the stall, it may be an Xbox Marketplace only item. I'll have to look into that a little further. Again, from my technical standpoint background, something I was very happy to see was the Oculus Rift. It was everywhere. It was on some of these independent games, but it was also in use with the Omni, which is the multiple motion thing where you have to actually move yourself to get your character to move, and you can see it in use with Team Fortress 2 in the background here. A new thing they added this year was a board game section. Now, I'm very big into my board games, not the kind of ones you get as a kid, but as you can see here, there's things like Zombicide, which is a big zombie game. You've got multiple scenarios you can make. There's expansions coming out for it, all sorts of things. It's something you may see little snippets of it in the future. I don't mean recordings of games themselves, but a friend of mine is setting up a shop that's going to sell all this kind of stuff, so you may see me supporting him a little bit, maybe doing the odd review here and there. And now, to end the video, see how many of these you can name. There was a retro section, and I'm talking really, really retro. They had consoles from across the whole spectrum. There were some that I have not seen in decades. I mean, it was like, oh dear, I remember having one of those. They still exist. They haven't all been melted down into a slag pile yet. It was really nice to see. They're all freely available to everyone to play on. It was awesome. It was one of the most populated areas of the entire show. So that was my trip to Eurogamer. Now, a lot of other stuff happened. I haven't had time to put it all in, and of course a lot of stuff I didn't record, so feel free to ask questions down in the comments field, and hopefully next time it will be in a bit better lit place, or I will have a better camera. So again, apologies for that. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.